The reluctant assignment Olivia Reed stared at her laptop screen, scrolling through the proposal one final time before hitting send. The Westbrook Foundation Gala was the kind of event that could elevate her small planning company to the big leagues. But she'd heard enough about Nathaniel Westbrook to make her hesitate. "Just do it already," her assistant Priya said, placing a fresh cup of coffee beside her. "What's the worst that could happen?" "He could say yes," Olivia muttered, but clicked send anyway. Westbrook Technologies had revolutionized renewable energy storage, making its founder one of the wealthiest men in the country. He was also, according to industry gossip, impossible to please. When her phone rang 3 hours later, Olivia wasn't prepared for the deep voice on the other end. "Ms. Reed, Nathaniel Westbrook, your proposal is interesting." She straightened in her chair. "Interesting good or interesting bad, Mr. Westbrook?" A pause. "Let's discuss it. Tomorrow, my office, 9 a.m. The Westbrook Technologies headquarters occupied a sleek, solar-paneled building downtown. Olivia arrived at 8:45, portfolio tucked under her arm, nerves crackling beneath her professional demeanor. The elevator whisked her to the top floor where a stern-faced assistant led her to a waiting area. "Mr. Westbrook is finishing a call. He'll be with you shortly." 15 minutes later, Olivia was still waiting. At 20 minutes, she began to seethe. At 30, she stood up. "Please tell Mr. Westbrook that if he expects perfection from his event planner, he might consider demonstrating some professional courtesy himself," she told the assistant, gathering her things. Just then, a door opened. "Ms. Reed, I apologize for keeping you waiting." Nathaniel Westbrook wasn't what she expected. In photos, he appeared polished and distant. In person, his eyes were tired, his shirt sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms marked with what appeared to be soldering burns. His dark hair had a streak of premature silver at the temple. "I was about to leave," Olivia said honestly. A faint smile touched his lips. "I don't blame you. Please, come in." His office was surprisingly cluttered. Models of energy systems, technical drawings, and books occupied every surface. Only the floor-to-ceiling windows, offering a panoramic view of the city, suggested the office belonged to a billionaire. "Your proposal," he said, retrieving a tablet, "has one significant problem." Olivia braced herself. "It's too safe," he continued. "The Westbrook Foundation supports innovation. Shouldn't our gala reflect that? Most clients prefer traditional elegance." "I'm not most clients," he interrupted. "The gala needs to showcase what we're building, a different future." For the next hour, they debated ideas. Nathaniel wasn't the aloof executive she'd imagined, but a passionate innovator. He challenged her conventional approaches, and to her surprise, Olivia found herself enjoying the mental sparring. "So," he said finally, "will you take on the project?" Olivia hesitated. "You have a reputation for being difficult." "And you have a reputation for pulling off the impossible," he countered. "3 conditions," she said. "First, I need direct access to you, not filtered through assistants. Second, final decisions on event details are mine. Third, no last-minute changes unless absolutely necessary." Nathaniel studied her, then extended his hand. "Agreed on one condition of my own. This can't feel like every other charity gala in the city. I want people to remember why they came." As their hands met, Olivia felt an unexpected jolt of connection. "Mr. Westbrook, I never create forgettable events. Call me Nathaniel," he said. "I think this is the beginning of something interesting, Ms. Reed." "Olivia," she corrected, withdrawing her hand and wondering exactly what she'd gotten herself into. Unexpected connections. The Westbrook Foundation Gala was 6 weeks away, and Olivia's carefully organized life had dissolved into a whirlwind of late nights and impromptu meetings. Nathaniel Westbrook wasn't just demanding, he was obsessively involved in every detail. "These centerpieces don't convey what we're trying to achieve," Nathaniel said, examining the prototype on the conference room table. It was their 3rd meeting that week, and Olivia's patience was wearing thin. "They're sustainable, elegant, and incorporate your company's blue energy crystals," she countered. "What exactly is missing?" Instead of answering, Nathaniel pulled out his phone. "Come with me." 20 minutes later, they were entering his private lab beneath the Westbrook building. Olivia had signed enough NDAs to fill a novel, but nothing prepared her for what she saw. a vast space filled with prototypes and experiments, humming with quiet energy. "Most people think we just make better batteries," Nathaniel said, leading her through the lab. "But what we're really doing is redesigning how humanity interacts with energy." He stopped at a workstation and lifted a small crystalline structure that glowed with an inner blue light. "This powers my entire home for a month." Olivia's irritation faded as she watched his face transform with genuine passion. "I didn't realize." "Few do," he said quietly. "They see the billionaire, not the work." That evening stretched into night as Nathaniel showed her prototypes and explained his vision. When they finally emerged from the lab, the building was deserted. "I've kept you too late," he said, looking troubled. "Let me drive you home." In his electric sports car, silence settled between them. Not uncomfortable, but charged with something Olivia couldn't name. When they reached her apartment building, Nathaniel turned to her. "The centerpieces should tell our story," he said softly. "Not just what we make, but why." Something shifted between them that night. The following weeks brought daily collaboration, and Olivia discovered layers to Nathaniel she hadn't expected. He remembered how she took her coffee. He listened when she suggested scaling back certain elements. Once, she caught him sketching designs for the gala's interactive displays long after his team had gone home. "You don't have to do everything yourself," she told him. Nathaniel looked up, shadows under his eyes. "Old habits. My father always said if you want something done right." "Sometimes letting others help is the braver choice," Olivia replied. One evening, reviewing seating arrangements in his office, Olivia noticed a framed photo partially hidden behind stacks of papers. Nathaniel with an elderly woman, both laughing. "My grandmother," he said, catching her glance. "She raised me after my parents died. The Foundation's educational initiative was her idea." "She looks wonderful," Olivia said. "Will she be attending the gala?" Pain flickered across his face. "She passed away last year. This is the first major event since—" Impulsively, Olivia touched his hand. "Then we'll make it honor her properly." The moment stretched between them, his hand warm beneath hers. Nathaniel's expression softened into something vulnerable before he gently withdrew. "I should get these investor documents finished," he said, voice rougher than usual. As the gala approached, they fell into a rhythm. Late-night planning sessions often ended with takeout dinner in his office, talking about everything and nothing. Olivia learned about his childhood dreams of building clean energy systems. He discovered her passion for transforming spaces into experiences. "Why event planning?" he asked one night as they walked through the half-decorated venue. "I grew up watching my mother work 3 jobs to support us," Olivia explained. "She never had time to celebrate anything. I promised myself I'd create moments that people would remember forever." Nathaniel studied her in the dim light. "You're not what I expected, Olivia Reed." "Neither are you, Nathaniel Westbrook." 2 days before the gala, disaster struck. Their venue's roof collapsed during a storm. Phones rang constantly as Olivia and her team scrambled for alternatives. "Nothing's available," Priya reported grimly. "We need a miracle." Olivia was about to call Nathaniel with the bad news when he appeared in her office doorway. "I heard," he said simply. "Use my home. The grounds are large enough, your home, but you're intensely private. I trust you," he said. Those 3 words carrying weight beyond the current crisis. As they stood in his modernist mansion that evening, planning the last-minute transformation, Olivia realized something troubling. Somewhere between arguments over lighting designs and late-night conversations, she'd begun to care for Nathaniel Westbrook in ways that extended dangerously beyond professional boundaries. The impulsive introduction. The night of the gala arrived with perfect weather, a small mercy after the venue disaster. Nathaniel's coastal estate had been transformed into an enchanted showcase of sustainable technology. Energy crystals illuminated winding garden paths, leading guests to a massive glass pavilion where interactive displays demonstrated Westbrook technologies alongside elegant dining arrangements. "It's remarkable," Nathaniel murmured, appearing beside Olivia as she directed the catering staff. In his tailored tuxedo, the silver streak in his dark hair catching the light. He looked every inch the powerful billionaire the world knew him to be. "Just doing my job," Olivia replied, trying to ignore how her pulse quickened. Her emerald gown, a last-minute purchase, complemented the event's aesthetic perfectly, though she'd chosen it thinking of how the color might look in Nathaniel's eyes. "No," he said, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "You've created something extraordinary here. My grandmother would have loved this." Before Olivia could respond, they were interrupted by the arrival of the evening's first major donors. For the next hour, she watched Nathaniel transform into the charming host, though she noticed the subtle tension in his shoulders as he navigated conversations with board members and investors. "Westbrook's still the same cold fish," she overheard one investor say to another near the bar. "Brilliant mind, but the man needs to show some humanity if he wants continued support for these pet projects." "The board's concerned about his isolation since Regina's death," the other replied. "4 years of mourning his fiancée is enough. They're pushing for a more relatable image." Olivia moved away, uncomfortable with the gossip, but the conversation explained much about Nathaniel's guarded nature. The fiancée he'd lost, information she'd deliberately avoided researching, respecting his privacy. The evening progressed smoothly until Olivia noticed a commotion near the main display. Gerald Hargrove, Westbrook's largest investor and board member, was speaking loudly, surrounded by several influential guests and journalists. "Nathaniel creates remarkable technology," Hargrove was saying, "but the board is concerned about his personal commitment. A man who lives only for work inspires admiration, perhaps, but not trust. People invest in people, not just ideas." Olivia watched Nathaniel approach the group, his expression carefully neutral, though she recognized the tightness around his eyes. "Gerald," Nathaniel greeted him. "Enjoying the evening?" "Just discussing your future," Hargrove replied with artificial warmth. "Many of us feel it's time you demonstrated some stability in your personal life. Perhaps even reopened your heart. The company's image would benefit tremendously." Cameras flashed as journalists edged closer. Nathaniel's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "My personal life is not a marketing strategy," he said evenly. Hargrove laughed too loudly. "Come now, Nathaniel. Even you must admit your reputation for being solitary creates certain impressions. People wonder if the man behind these innovations is capable of human connection at all." Something shifted in Nathaniel's expression, a flash of genuine hurt quickly masked by determination. His eyes scanned the room until they locked with Olivia's. In that brief exchange, she saw something raw and desperate. "Actually, Gerald," Nathaniel said, his voice carrying across the suddenly quiet gathering, "I've been meaning to make an announcement tonight." Olivia felt a premonition of what might happen next, but couldn't move as Nathaniel crossed to her side and took her hand. "I've kept this private while we focused on the foundation's work," he continued, addressing the entire room now. "But I think it's time you all met the woman who's changed everything for me." His fingers tightened around hers. "My fiancée, Olivia Reed." The room erupted in gasps and whispers. Camera flashes blinded Olivia momentarily as she stood frozen, her hand in Nathaniel's, her mind racing to process what had just happened. "When did this happen?" someone called out. Nathaniel smiled down at her with convincing tenderness. "Some things develop unexpectedly when you're not looking for them at all." Later, as guests congratulated them and journalists clamored for details, Olivia managed to pull Nathaniel onto the moonlit terrace. "What have you done?" she whispered furiously. "I'm sorry," he said, running a hand through his hair. "It was impulsive. Hargrove and the board have been pressuring me, and I just—" His expression was genuinely remorseful. "I'll explain everything tomorrow and issue a retraction." Before she could respond, the glass doors opened. "There's the happy couple," Hargrove called out. "The board is thrilled, Nathaniel. This changes everything." As they turned back to face the crowd, Nathaniel whispered, "One night. Please. I'll make this right tomorrow." Olivia plastered on her professional smile, mind reeling as she stepped back into the role of not just event planner, but fiancée to one of the world's most eligible bachelors. Playing a long morning light streamed through Olivia's apartment windows as she stared at her phone. Overnight, Westbrook engagement had become the top trending topic. Every major news outlet had picked up the story. Reclusive billionaire's surprise engagement to his event planner. Some articles were flattering, others speculative, a few downright invasive. Her phone buzzed with Nathaniel's name. "I'm on my way over," he said when she answered. "We need to talk." 20 minutes later, Nathaniel sat across from her at her tiny kitchen table. Gone was the polished billionaire from the gala. This man looked exhausted, his casual clothes rumpled as if he'd slept in them. "I spent all night trying to figure out how to fix this," he began. "But there's a complication." Olivia sipped her coffee. "Besides the fact that you announced our engagement to the entire world without consulting me, the foundation received $12 million in new pledges after the announcement," he said quietly. Hargrove called this morning. "The board is unanimously backing the expansion of our educational program, the one my grandmother designed." Understanding dawned on Olivia. "So, if you announce it was all a mistake, the funding might disappear. This program would bring clean energy education to thousands of underprivileged students." He met her eyes. "I have no right to ask this, but would you consider maintaining the pretense just for a few weeks? Just until the contracts are signed? You want me to pretend to be your fiancé? Have you lost your mind? I'll compensate you generously," he added quickly. "And we can stage a mutual, amicable parting of ways afterward." Olivia laughed incredulously. "Nathaniel, I plan events for a living. My reputation is everything, and you're asking me to build it on a lie." "I know." He ran his hands through his disheveled hair. "I shouldn't have put you in this position." Something in his defeated expression made her hesitate. The education initiative meant everything to him, a legacy for the grandmother who raised him. 2 weeks, she said finally. "We appear at a few carefully selected events, then announce we've decided to remain friends. And my company plans all Westbrook events for the next 3 years at premium rates." Relief washed over his face. "Agreed." What followed was a masterclass in orchestrated appearances. They attended a charity auction together, visited the site of the future educational center, and were photographed having dinner at exclusive restaurants. Olivia created a convincing narrative of a private romance that had blossomed during their professional collaboration. What she hadn't anticipated was how easily they fell into the rhythm of it, how natural it felt when Nathaniel took her hand, the way his eyes sought hers across crowded rooms, the private jokes they developed. For public appearances, they crafted a careful script, but the quiet moments between, those belonged just to them. One evening, after a foundation dinner, they walked along the waterfront near his home. "You're remarkably good at this deception," Olivia noted. "Watching the moonlight play across the waves. Is it really deception when—" Nathaniel began, then stopped himself. "Your company's event calendar must be filling up with all this publicity." "Actually, I've had to turn down several offers," she admitted. "They all wanted the Westbrook touch, as if I could bottle whatever it is you do." He laughed, the sound genuine and warm. "What I do is make batteries, Olivia. What you do is magic," the compliment settled between them. Honest in a way their public personas weren't. That night, driving her home, Nathaniel's hand found hers across the console. "Thank you," he said simply, "for everything." 10 days into their charade, Priya cornered Olivia in their office. "You're falling for him, aren't you? For real?" "Don't be ridiculous," Olivia responded too quickly. "It's business." "I've known you for 6 years," Priya said gently. "I've never seen you look at anyone the way you look at him when you think no one's watching." The truth was terrifying to acknowledge, somewhere between staged photo, opportunities, and private conversations. Pretense had evolved into genuine feeling. Olivia found herself noticing things about Nathaniel that had nothing to do with their agreement. The way he always remembered names of service staff, how he kept a notebook of ideas inspired by everyday observations, the gentleness with which he spoke about his grandmother. On the 12th day, Hargrove called with news. The educational initiative was fully funded, contracts signed. Their charade could end. That night, Nathaniel invited Olivia to his home to celebrate and discuss their breakup strategy. When she arrived, she found the terrace transformed with the same energy crystals from the gala, illuminating an intimate dinner setting. "What's all this?" she asked, heart beating traitorously fast. Nathaniel handed her a glass of champagne. I thought we should celebrate properly. Thanks to you, my grandmother's dream is becoming reality. As they dined under the stars, Olivia realized with painful clarity that returning to her life before Nathaniel would be harder than she'd imagined. Tomorrow they would announce their separation, and this brief interlude of belonging at his side would end. To successful conclusions, she said, raising her glass, fighting to keep her voice steady. Nathaniel didn't lift his glass. Instead, he studied her with an intensity that made her breath catch. What if, he said slowly. I don't want this to conclude. Truth beyond pretense. The champagne glass trembled slightly in Olivia's hand as Nathaniel's words hung in the space between them. The soft glow of energy crystals cast blue shadows across his features, making it difficult to read his expression. What are you saying? She finally managed, setting her glass down before she dropped it. Nathaniel rose from his chair and moved to the terrace railing, looking out at the darkened coastline. When I introduced you as my fiancé, it was impulsive, a shield against Hargrove's pressure and my own loneliness. He turned to face her. But these past 2 weeks haven't felt like pretending, Olivia. Nathaniel, let me finish, please. He crossed back to her, kneeling beside her chair. After Regina died, I convinced myself that personal connections were a distraction from what mattered. The work, the foundation, building something meaningful. I surrounded myself with projects instead of people. Olivia's heart hammered against her ribs. This is just proximity. We've been thrown together in an intense situation. Is that what you believe? He asked, his voice gentle. Because I've spent every day of the past 2 weeks finding reasons to call you, thinking of things to tell you, places I want to show you. His hand covered hers on the table. Last night I realized I was dreading tomorrow. Not because of what we'd tell the press, but because I wouldn't have an excuse to see you anymore. The confession hung between them, honest in a way their public appearances had never been. Olivia fought against the hope rising in her chest. You don't really know me, she said. You know the version of me that's been playing a role. Nathaniel shook his head. I know you drink your coffee black in the morning but switch to lattes afternoon. I know you touch your left earring when you're nervous. I know you founded your company because you believe meaningful moments are what people remember when everything else fades. His thumb traced circles on her wrist. I know when you laugh, really laugh, not the polite one you use at events, your whole face transforms. Tears pricked at Olivia's eyes. I don't belong in your world, Nathaniel. Maybe I belong in yours, he countered. The truth is, I haven't felt this alive since before Regina died. You don't care about my money or my status. You challenge me, frustrate me, make me see things differently. He took a deep breath. I'm not asking for promises. I'm just asking if we could try something real. No press, no pretending. Just us, figuring out what this could be. The weight of possibility pressed against Olivia's chest. She'd spent years building her business, convinced that romantic entanglements would only distract from her goals. Yet here was Nathaniel, brilliant, complicated, unexpectedly vulnerable, offering something she hadn't allowed herself to want. What if it doesn't work? She whispered. What happens to everything we've built? Then we'll face it honestly, he said. But what if it does work, Olivia? What if this wasn't just a convenient fiction, but the beginning of something true? She stood suddenly, needing space to think. Walking to the railing, she gazed out at the ocean, feeling Nathaniel's presence behind her, waiting. When I was little, she said finally, my mother used to tell me that real connections were rare, that most people go through life settling for what's convenient or expected. She turned to face him. I promised myself I'd never settle. I would never ask you to, he said, remaining where he was, giving her the space she needed. There would have to be boundaries, she continued. My company remains independent. No special treatment or contracts because of us. Hope flickered across his face. Agreed. And we take it slowly. No more fake engagement announcements. The corner of his mouth lifted in a half smile. Though you must admit, it was an effective icebreaker. Despite herself, Olivia laughed. The sound seemed to break something open between them. Nathaniel crossed to her, stopping just short of touching her. "May I?" he asked softly. When she nodded, his hands framed her face with unexpected tenderness. The kiss that followed wasn't the passionate declaration of storybooks, but something gentler, a question, an offering, a beginning. Later that night, they sat side by side on his terrace, planning not a press release but a first official date. Olivia's head rested against Nathaniel's shoulder as he pointed out constellations above them. "Cassiopeia," he said, tracing the pattern with his finger. "A queen placed among the stars." "My mother would say that's how all good love stories should be," Olivia murmured. "Written in the stars." Nathaniel's arm tightened around her. "Is that what this is? A love story?" Olivia thought about the unlikely path that had brought them here, from reluctant business partners to fake engagement to this moment of genuine possibility. "I think," she said carefully, "it's a story still being written." The next morning, as sunlight streamed through Nathaniel's kitchen windows, they drafted a simple statement. After careful consideration, Nathaniel Westbrook and Olivia Reed have decided their relationship works best as a professional partnership and deep friendship. Nathaniel looked up from the tablet. "Are you sure about this? Once we send it—" "It's the truth," Olivia said. "Our fake engagement is ending." She reached across the counter and took his hand. "Whatever comes next will be real, just for us, not for headlines." As Priya had predicted, the press moved on to newer scandals within days. The Westbrook Educational Initiative broke ground the following month. And if anyone noticed that the reclusive billionaire and his event planner were often seen together at small restaurants or walking along the beach, they attributed it to ongoing professional collaboration. 6 months later, at the opening ceremony for the first Westbrook Clean Energy Academy, Olivia stood in the audience watching Nathaniel address the gathered students and donors. His grandmother's photograph held a place of honor beside the podium. "The most important connections in life," Nathaniel was saying, "often come when we least expect them. Sometimes what begins as pretense reveals the truths we need most." His eyes found hers in the crowd, and Olivia smiled. Their story hadn't followed any planned script, but then the best ones rarely did.